Welcome to Car and Driver. Each year we gather the newest and most recently updated EVs together to test and evaluate to find which one of those matches our criteria for the EV of the year. This year we have 30 vehicles, which we're going to whittle down to just one winner.
Or let's say an entire lineup.
The Porsche Taycan, in its bewilderingly numerous iterations, is Car and Driver's EV of the year.
Doesn't have the biggest battery, and on one of our 4 key criteria, value, well, let's just say it's not its strength. And yet, the Taycan was our overwhelming favorite.
Why? Well, the Taycan proves that the best answer for the future of the automobile isn't merely a faster EV. It's a car that remembers what makes driving great in the first place. The Taycan was Porsche's first dedicated EV, and it hit the market early, maybe a little too early.
In our EV of the Year evaluation in 2021, we adored driving it, but it came up short in EPA-rated range and it charged a premium. We noted that at the time, a Tesla Model S could take you further on a charge and accelerate just as quickly for significantly less money.
Not much has changed on the outside since that initial foray. This Cross Turismo variant joined the lineup for 2021 model year, and it somehow manages to look both functional and profoundly cool to my eyes. It's the changes underneath the sheet metal, though, that gave the Taycan a new lease on life for the 2025 model year. We're talking more range, bigger batteries, lower weight, fancy new suspension tech, and so on. For some reason or another, Porsche rated the initial Taycan at just 192 to 203 miles of range, depending on the trim. Never mind that the real-world results were much higher. If you look at our test figures, those low EPA range figures were a turnoff to a lot of shoppers who didn't know better. Now, well, both of the available batteries are larger. The 97 kilowatt-hour performance battery is lighter, as is the rear electric motor. There's a whole host of other efficiencies, too, that stack up. The result? EPA range ratings are now 20 to 35% higher depending on trim, and the effect is obvious in the real world. The Taycan 4S we tested in our real-world highway range test at a constant 75 miles an hour did 330 miles, where the previous one only did 220. Now, with that out of the way, let's be clear about something. No one else right now is building a better driving EV. This is the base Taycan. It's rear-wheel drive. It costs a hair over 100 grand. And of course, in usual Porsche fashion, there's the 4, the 4S, the GTS, the Turbo S, the Turbo GT, and then all the Cross Turismo wagon variants. The list feels almost exhausted at times, and each one gets more expensive and more powerful and more capable of going fast in a straight line. The key thing, though, is the inherent qualities in terms of handling and ride and the stuff we enjoy about driving you can experience with the base Taycan. That's what really stands out. And it's not like this is slow or anything. You get a little bit over 400 horsepower, and in our testing, this did 60 miles an hour in 4.1 seconds and a quarter mile in 12.5 seconds. That's still pretty quick. But what I really enjoy, though, is the overall feel of the driving experience. It's the way everything works together in harmony. The steering feedback, the steering feel, the steering weighting, the ride, the overall expression of the car as you balance it through corners is one that's very, very enjoyable. And that rings true for the entire Taycan lineup. Although it does get a hair better once you get to the 4S. There's an ingredient that you can get starting with the Taycan 4S that we have to talk about. That's the result of Porsche's active ride option. Not only does it make the car greet you like an excited puppy, it makes the ride and handling experience even better.
Where adaptive dampers can only react to an input, active dampers can push back. They can actively move the suspension. Each damper has an electric motor and a hydraulic pump that can continuously add or subtract force based on the nuances of the road or what you're doing at the wheel.
Forgive the hyperbole, but the effect is like magic. It turns the Taycan into one of the smoothest and perhaps, to my rear end, one of the more enjoyable things on four wheels. The way it transforms what the pavement's doing to what you're feeling at the steering wheel and in the seat is incredible. It like deletes bumps like the way, I don't know, Elon deletes an embarrassingly tweet. It's instant. You never knew it even existed. It makes our lumpy Michigan pavement feel like freshly Zambonied ice. I'm sorry, forgive the hyperbole. I started with that. Just keep in mind that our very own Dan Edmonds, a former suspension engineer, called it, quote, sublime, a game changer, end quote.
All those variables gave the engineers a ton of work, and we're told the team spent 3 years dialing it in.
Their work was worth it. The way this handles pitch and roll still feels natural because Porsche's actually kept some of those body motions in the system. It turns out when you keep a vehicle perfectly flat, that feels weird. It feels like a simulation. It doesn't feel like a driving experience, and Porsche is all about the driving experience. And going a gajillion miles an hour.
It isn't perfect, though.
The recent obsession some manufacturers have, to include Porsche, to put climate controls on tactile feedback screens is, to put it mildly, dumb. Like, look what I have to do in order to change the airflow from the vents. I have to hit this menu AC button, and then I have to play this kind of game of operation up here to change the direction of the airflow. That requires focus and dexterity depending on how frequently I want to change the vents, which can be often depending on the weather outside. And more importantly, though, it takes my attention away from the road and the driving experience, which is kind of why I'm driving a Porsche in the first place, right? Now let's turn to the regenerative braking or lack thereof. Porsche insists, to its credit, that a proper sports car needs a proper brake pedal, and we get it. We love the feedback from a dialed-in brake pedal. It feels good. It's part of the driving experience. But we also like the ability to choose, right? Now, the Taycan gives you this sort of token regen mode that you could turn off or on or auto, but it doesn't really feel like it does much outside of being, I don't know, philosophically stubborn. Now, to be fair, Porsche is correct that coasting is more efficient than using regenerative braking, but if I really cared about efficiency, I probably wouldn't spend $250,000 on a sedan that has over 1,000 horsepower. That's right, this Taycan Turbo GT costs over $200,000, topping the range. And you might be looking at this interior and thinking to yourself, that doesn't look like a $200,000 interior. And you'd be right. But let me tell you that all interiors blur the same way when you're doing 60 miles an hour in 1.9 seconds and the quarter in 9.2 seconds at over 150 miles an hour. That's our test results, which are just staggering. This is one of the quickest vehicles we've ever tested. It was the first vehicle that we've ever tested that did 60 miles an hour in 1.9 seconds. That's insanely impressive. And launch control, I don't know, it doesn't quite feel like acceleration. It feels like instant relocation. It's the sort of acceleration that's so immediate and so violent, you really have to ensure your head is planted against the headrest or else you're gonna like want to call a chiropractor. It's nuts. We've already talked about, though, the rest of the handling characteristics. This just adds more capability to them. You still have the pleasing handling and steering augmented by that suspension tech. Now you've got 1,000 and some odd horsepower when you're in the right drive mode. But wait, this doesn't have drive modes. It has attack modes. Yes, it actually says attack modes on the gauge cluster. Other car companies, like let's say Tesla, might be a cheeky joke, but remember, Porsche is a serious German company. When they say attack modes, neighboring countries should get nervous.
Despite how it might look on the gauge cluster, their Turbo GT specific attack mode is actually a temporary power boost, providing an additional 160 horsepower for 10 seconds.
We've touched on how the inherent driving characteristics of the Taycan are so supremely enjoyable, how they're improved by the active ride, how they're even more improved when you have 1,000 horsepower. What the Turbo GT does is just, it expands the capabilities and increases the excitement, but it's just as satisfying. The acceleration is obviously immense. The ride and handling is pleasant, engaging, everything you would hope a Porsche to be. The brake pedal feels nice, it's easy to modulate. This is just a very pleasing vehicle to drive, whether you're on a back road or just commuting through town. That's the magic of the suspension, but that's also the qualities of a Porsche. It just feels good no matter the experience, whether you're stuck behind somebody who really thinks going the speed limit on a 2-lane road is just the morally correct thing to do. God bless them. Or when they're gone and you can go full, not gonna say throttle, but full boogie, let's say, and this has a lot of boogie to give. You don't need to get the Turbo GT, of course. This one just has all the power. The whole range is gonna give you some degree of this driving experience, and that's what's so nice about driving the Taycan. This year, the field was stacked. We're at a point where the spec sheets for some of these vehicles reads less like a statement of facts and more like some kind of fever dream. Consider that 20% of the entrants this year had 850 horsepower or more, right? One of them, the Lucid Air Sapphire, actually gives this Turbo GT a run for its money in a straight line. There's advancements everywhere. These vehicles can charge quicker, they can go faster in a straight line, they can go further on that charge. The list goes on and on. It's becoming this sort of like digital arms race where the numbers can lose meaning. But that's why we kept coming back to the Taycan. Let's go through the criteria. Fun to drive? Yeah. Technology advancement and mission fulfillment? Yep. Value? Well, let's just say it's an investment in joy. But that's actually the key. If the automotive future is indeed electric, Porsche is ensuring that we won't arrive there at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but bored out of our minds.